Andy, thanks for taking the time again, mate. I know you're very busy, and the last thing you want to be doing on a lovely sunny day
Don't say
like
that.
this
Don't say
is
that.
talk to
I
me.
love doing these. You know it.
I do. Mate, incredibly, I think by the time this goes out, it'll be the end of April. So we're a third of the way through another year. It seems to be flying by. You guys are just constantly, up against things. What is going on so far this year? What are you seeing?
Good question.
Big question, yeah.
Good question. As we've come into this year, all of our sort of ways of thinking and what we were expected to see in comparison to last year is completely different, really, to be honest.
In a good way or a bad way?
Definitely in a good way.
Right, okay.
Definitely.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, there's a lot more stability in the market.
Okay.
There's a lot more capacity
Right.
in the market. We're seeing a lot of, for example, like freight forwarders sort of touting for business.
Wow.
Manufacturing facilities, again, looking for business. And the main reason for that is because they've built up all this capacity based on sort of output from 2022.
Yeah.
And they've now got a heavy surplus of capacity, and they're trying to fill that.
Right.
So with extra capacity, there's now a bit more sort of stability in the market. Some of the challenges remain. I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah.
It is a challenge, but we need to make sure we've got different options outside of our pre-existing manufacturing facilities. So that's actively benchmarking our supply and making sure that we remain as competitive as possible, as well as tracking commodities. Commodities are, as we all know, are moving up and down all the time. Speaking to industry experts as to what the likelihood is going to be in the future as well. So we're very close to a number of different sort of key contacts within the industry on the freight side of things and raw material to make sure that we're well on top of any sudden sort of rises or sort of falls in commodity pricing.
Okay. Well, it's interesting you mentioned freight prices there, because we ran this survey recently. Yeah. And we put the question out, what are the key challenges for supply chains in 2023? And of the four leading answers that came back, increased freight prices was one of them. So that came in at 24% of the vote. So what's the impact there, do you think? Because I know it's got a lot more stable, but that doesn't mean that it's going to stay stable.
No, definitely not. I think if you were to ask me what was likely to happen for the remainder of this year, and like you said, we have seen a great deal of stability. I think in the next 3 to 6 months, demand will pick up. With that stability, and as a result, prices will start to rise across the board. I do believe, anyway.
Okay.
In terms of to what level, and in terms of to the levels that we saw last year, I don't think so. But I do expect towards the tail end of this year, and as we build up to Chinese New Year, prices start to across the board, not just on the freight side of things, but on the raw material supply side as well, start to increase, most definitely.
Okay. Has raw material kind of plateaued out a little bit now, or is it? I mean, you said you expect it to rise at the tail end of the year. What's it like at the moment?
It has been on the increase.
Okay.
For the last probably 2 months or so. In terms of that sort of creeping up and getting higher and higher, I'm not sure, to be honest. Commodities always will go up and they'll go down. But like I said, we speak with some industry experts who keep us close to the action, and any potential rises in the future we're sort of well on top of and well aware of. But it's a really difficult one to say.
It's almost impossible to predict, isn't it?
We could have another war. Like the war in Ukraine, that created crazy imbalances in supply and demand. Yeah. Obviously, prior to that, the COVID-19 outbreak as well, causing imbalances in supply and demand.
And I mean, the way the world's going at the moment, I'm absolutely no way trying to make a mockery of the things that have happened in the past few years. But it's almost like there's going to be an alien invasion next, I think.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's gearing yourself up for that.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you gear yourself up for the unknown?
Yeah. Well, I mean, for us, Metpro, we've always had this. That in-depth stockholding policy has been there since '95. We've always operated with what we believe are exceptional customer service levels, and the product quality has always been right at the top of the list. So I think it's like the classic British adage of keep calm and carry on, and just stay positive. It's been so negative the past 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
It's got me down quite a few times, and I'm not the most positive of people in the first instance.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
So yeah, this is all a facade for the camera. Okay, well, another thing that came up, and it's kind of in the same vein, was actually the leading challenge that people foresee, which is naturally inflation. Obviously, it's on the news a lot at the moment. The cost of living crisis is still incredibly topical, and even because obviously we're recruiting a bit at the moment as well, and the salary expectations that you're seeing now versus for the same role 2-3 years ago, it's astronomically higher. So what impacts are you seeing there in the purchasing arena?
Yeah, no, I fully understand. I get it. It's all we talk about, in the news. If you go on to, like the BBC News website, there's a whole section for the cost of living crisis. So in terms of my role and sort of what we actively do, I mentioned previously about benchmarking to make sure we remain competitive, giving ourselves choices when we go into different manufacturing facilities to make sure we remain competitive, keeping a close eye on commodities, raw material, exchange rate, freight, and again, keeping really good, close relationships with each of those, what do you call them, sort of leaders within that or experts within that sort of field of industry.
Yeah.
In that respect, so we've got really good, long-standing relationships with these people, and very open and honest as well, which is really good.
Yeah. So it's, I think with challenges of this nature, what more can we do than, like you say, keep ourselves as close to the action as possible and keep our customers informed? That's the number one priority. Look, this is coming, this is happening. This is what we're expecting to see. And I mean, fundamentally, the focus for us, I hope you agree, is to put a quality product out at a competitive price.
Yeah,
that's the goal.
Absolutely.
And I certainly think you're doing a pretty good job of that at the moment, mate.
Thank you, Jake.
Despite the hefty levels of stock we've got out there in the warehouse.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, but another one that was, it was the lowest response on the survey, but it's port congestion. And I wanted to raise it because my firstly, it was 6% of the votes. It was very low. But my understanding at the moment is that has really stabilised. Last year, 2021, and obviously 2020. I don't want to keep going back to the past, but we were expecting, and correct me on the figures, but we were expecting stock deliveries to come in, and then they were 15, 20 days late. They were having to go back to mainland Europe, coming back to us. That seems to have plateaued, but I wanted to ask you what it's actually like now, because my interpretation is that it's actually a bit of a good news story now.
I would say so, most definitely. From a operational point of view, for myself and for the guys in my team, the whole process from start to finish in terms of the goods are ready, booking the freight onto the vessel, the arrival into the UK, delivery to Metpro is almost like pre-COVID levels. Yeah. To be honest with you, again, just to reiterate. And for Mark listening, it's not, my job isn't easy, and for those guys, but that whole process is a lot more simple from start to finish, and we're not seeing those limitations in capacity. And and output from the port. So that whole process from start to finish is a lot smoother than previously. So yeah, definitely a good news story there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned about the average days in terms of a delay. So yeah, last year we were seeing anything from I think one vessel was like 45 days late from when it was scheduled.
That's not late. That's just send it again.
Yeah, he never left. And so yeah, trying to plan last year was a nightmare. But so on average last year was about 20 to 25 days late from arrival. This year it's averaging about 5 days.
Okay.
So it's improving.
Yeah.
But no, I understand the concern on the port congestion. But for the time being, and again, I don't want to say something that might happen or might happen in the future. But yeah, it's definitely looking a lot brighter.
Okay. And the last big response on this one was actually matched the freight prices at 24%. That's digital transformation. Now, there's as you know, because we've discussed this recently around our product data, but the digitalization of information in the industry is something that really kicked off, ramped up from 2020, naturally, with the rise of e-commerce and people going online. But we're now started to get into a load of other areas with this, and it's really exciting. It's obviously a lot of work, but it's really, really exciting. I mean, you've now got, I know it's been going on for a few years, but it seems more prevalent now, the rise of BIM.
Yes.
People have got VR headsets on and they're walking around the buildings just in a studio. So it's great stuff. And we're we are getting ourselves in a position that we're ready for when for the people that want it and need it now, and also for when the rest of the industry catches up. But what are your plans in purchasing there? Because I know you've got some pretty big plans for digitalisation.
Do I?
I think so. I hope so.
Who told you that?
You did.
Okay.
Before we started this recording.
Okay. I think the industry as a whole, from the customer, I can't speak too much on the customer side, but in particular on the supply side of things, these guys have been producing these products day in day out for many years. And in terms of their digitalisation, it's very much sort of behind the times. From our own internal sort of processes, again behind the times. I think because Metpro has gone from this sort of family-run business to sort of where we are today in such a short space of time, some of those processes and that digitalisation hasn't quite kept up with things.
No, I mean those things kind of, unfortunately, they do naturally get. They're an afterthought, aren't they? Yeah. When you're going through the growth that we've experienced, you're just trying to you're flying by the seat of your pants and you're trying to keep up. So sorry.
No, it's absolutely fine. And I'm not sure if you've heard me mention this, but spreadsheets are like the devil, to be honest. There's a spreadsheet for this. There's a spreadsheet for that.
Yeah. It's all in different folders. It's all over the place.
You have to go to here to get that. So we're in the process of, or starting the process of migrating across from our current Sage system to Microsoft Dynamics.
Yes.
With that, will bring a huge amount of benefit. Automation. That digitalisation side of things is going to be
cleaner processes, more clarity for staff.
Yeah,
much easier.
All in a single location, nice clean data.
Yeah,
nice clean data. When you're working with an MRP system, you need to make sure your parameters and your data is super clean. Otherwise, it's going to give you poor messages, and you're going to potentially order too little, too much, or for the wrong time. So clean data is just absolutely paramount. But yeah, we're going in the right direction. But we need to, keep up with the times really.
Yeah, keep our foot on the gas.
Definitely.
And I think we really are doing that.
Yeah.
So, okay. And there's just a couple more things that I wanted to touch on as part of this conversation. The next one being, as you're well aware, there's a huge push globally for a reduction in carbon emissions.
Yes.
We've got the net zero 2040. I think now is the target date for the UK, and we're getting a lot more requests from customers, from end users who need this information, and it's becoming a requirement in order, for products to be used. And one that's really new to us, which we're now working on, is the creation of TM65 documents. So what's going on there?
So we've had to actively engage more with our manufacturing facilities for this data. It is available in terms of readily available. Sometimes can be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, we're in the process.
Yeah, as I mentioned previously, these manufacturing facilities have been producing these products day in, day out for many, many years, and their processes and their systems haven't really sort of changed in that time. So this request for data, although it's available, is a bit of a shock to them potentially. But we've also been speaking to, is it SIBSI? Yes. With them as well to help guide us through that process.
Yeah, and it was a bit of when we got the initial request on the first one, we were a bit deer in headlights. Whoa, what's this? What do we need to do? But in actual fact, it's a lot of work, but it's not a lot of work at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I think we're well on the way. And I mean, for me, I've spoken to our data partners, the team over at NG15, and in the very near future, I would expect from 2024, we'd be able to have these accessible in real time through our PIM as well. So which ties back into the digitalization of the industry and clean data and all that stuff. So it's good. Good stuff. Yeah. Good. And the last thing, mate, is COVID in China, because this was a big thing last year. It was on the rise. China was gearing up to open up, which obviously they have now. Well, certainly more than they have over the past couple of years.
Yes.
What, if anything, has been the impact to us?
It really kicked off back in December again. And I remember saying to Arthur, I was like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, nice Christmas present.
Yeah, happy Christmas. But again, going back to what I was saying earlier about choice. So we did find some of our manufacturing facilities were impacted from the outbreaks with COVID in China. But because we were able to react quickly and move the supply to other manufacturing facilities, we were able to maintain the level of supply coming through.
Right.
So there was some impact, but none to our customer. More on the operational side of things and things being delayed or not going onto the right vessel. But we're actually going to China next month.
Yep.
Yes, my first time. So I'm excited. It'd be quite full on, but hopefully when I come back, I can tell you the true impact of all of that. But
that'd be interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, see it from the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So looking forward to going. But no, from Metpro's perspective and the customer's perspective, there was sort of little to sort of no impact, and the noise at the time, because it was all on the news at the time, has gone away really.
Brilliant.
So again, another positive news story.
Absolutely.
So really, really good. Yeah.
So really, I mean, I know that there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be things we have to consider. But so far, and I'm going to touch wood here, but this 2023 seems to be the first start of the year where it feels truly like pre-coronavirus.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And if you work within the supply chain, you've almost built up like a resilience to it all. Really,
you've gone through the fire.
It's like it can't get any worse. So you almost, and again, you have to make sure that you learn from what happened previously, but then also about managing risk as well.
Yeah.
So we actively manage and review risk within our supply chain, and unfortunately with sort of things that have happened, sometimes you have to add additional sort of risks in. But again, it's the year has started off, a lot better than in previous years, and long may it continue, because last year was stressful.
Yeah, very challenging.
Yes.
But yeah. Oh, lovely, mate. Okay. Well, look, Andy, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I'll let you get back to buying more stock that we have enough of. And in the meantime, I will really try and shift some for you through the sales team.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, Andy.
Cheers, mate.